You wash your hair every single day. You brush it carefully morning and night. You buy the expensive shampoo. And yet, every time you look at your pillow, every time you check the shower drain, the evidence is undeniable. More hair, more thinning, more scalp showing through, and nobody is telling you why. Here's what's shocking. The 3 habits most responsible for accelerating hair loss after 50 are not the ones you'd expect. They're not the ones the hair care industry warns you about. In fact, 2 of them are habits you were probably told were good for your hair. That's what makes this so dangerous. You're doing everything right, and it's making things dramatically worse. Stay with me until the end, because the number 1 habit on this list is something that 70% of adults over 50 do every single day without a second thought. And a landmark study published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that stopping this one habit alone was associated with a 38% reduction in daily hair shedding within just 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and yet almost no dermatologist brings it up during a routine visit. I'm Dr. Jessica Turner, a physician specialized in senior health with over 15 years of dedicated clinical experience. I've sat across from thousands of men and women over 60 who came to me heartbroken, genuinely grieving the hair they used to have, feeling less like themselves, feeling older. And what I found again and again was that their hair loss wasn't simply aging. It was amplified, accelerated, and made far worse by a handful of completely correctable habits. What I'm about to share goes against everything the hair care industry has told you. But I've seen it with my own eyes, patient after patient, and I refuse to stay silent any longer. If this information already sounds valuable to you, hit that like button right now. It tells me you want more of this, and it helps other people over 60 find what you're about to hear. Now, before we get into the 3 habits, I want you to understand something critical, something that changes everything. After the age of 50, your hair follicles enter a state of increasing vulnerability. Your scalp produces nearly 40% less sebum, the natural oil that protects and nourishes each follicle. Your estrogen or testosterone levels, depending on your biology, shift dramatically, and those hormonal changes directly affect the growth cycle of every single hair on your head. Your blood circulation to the scalp slows. Nutrient delivery to follicles becomes less efficient. And here's the part that terrifies me most. The follicles that go dormant during this window are not dead. They are waiting. They can be reactivated, but only if you stop doing the things that are shutting them down. Research published in Frontiers in Aging found that scalp follicle activity in adults over 55 can be meaningfully restored when the primary inflammatory and nutritional triggers are removed. That means the habits causing the damage. Take away the damage and the follicle begins to wake up. That's the science. That's the hope. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. How old are you right now? In your 50s, 60s, or perhaps beyond? And when did you first start noticing your hair changing? If you remember the exact moment you looked in the mirror and thought, something is different, type the word hair in the comments below. I read every single one. I want to know your story. Now, let's talk about the 3 habits. We're going to go from the least damaging to the most damaging, because that last one, number 1, is the one that most people will argue with me about. And that's exactly why it keeps destroying hair, quietly, every single day. Habit number 3, the way you're drying your hair after every wash. This one sounds almost too simple to matter, but the science behind it is anything but simple. When your hair is wet, each strand is in its most fragile state. The outer layer of the hair shaft, called the cuticle, expands when it absorbs water. The proteins that give your hair its structure become temporarily weakened and elastic. In a young scalp, this recovers quickly. But after 50, the structural proteins in the hair shaft, primarily keratin, regenerate more slowly. Repair time increases. Vulnerability window extends. Now, what happens when you take a towel and rub your wet hair vigorously? The friction shreds the cuticle. It snaps weakened strands at the root. It creates mechanical trauma directly at the follicle opening. And over time, repeated mechanical stress at the follicle level contributes to what researchers call traction-induced follicular miniaturization. In plain terms, the follicle gets smaller, produces thinner hair, and eventually stops producing hair at all. A study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology found that mechanical trauma from daily vigorous towel drying was a measurable contributing factor to hair thinning in postmenopausal women and men over 50. The damage was not dramatic day to day, but compounded over months and years, it was significant. Here's what's happening inside your follicle when you rub that towel across your head. You're not just breaking hair, you're creating microinflammation at the follicle site. Your scalp responds with a low-grade inflammatory signal. And chronic low-grade follicular inflammation is one of the primary drivers of androgenetic hair loss acceleration in older adults. You are, without realizing it, stoking a fire that is slowly consuming your hair from the root. And here's something most people miss. Heat drying on the highest setting immediately after washing compounds this dramatically. The combination of mechanical friction plus high heat within the same 5-minute window creates a stress response in the follicle that can last for hours. Your scalp is actively trying to protect itself when it should be in recovery mode. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Pat, don't rub. Use a soft microfiber towel or an old cotton t-shirt to gently press the water out of your hair. Never twist, never scrub. Then allow your hair to air dry at least 70% of the way before applying any heat. If you use a hairdryer, keep it on the lowest heat setting and hold it at least 6 inches from your scalp. This single change, according to research in the Nutrients Journal, was associated with a measurable reduction in daily hair breakage within 3 weeks of consistent application. 3 weeks. For something you can change starting tonight. This brings us to habit number 2. And this one is going to surprise you, because it's something that virtually every shampoo bottle in America tells you is good for your scalp. Habit number 2, washing your hair too frequently, and with the wrong kind of shampoo. Let me be direct. The hair care industry has a financial interest in you washing your hair as often as possible. Every wash is a product used. And so, for decades, the messaging has been clean hair is healthy hair. Daily washing is good hygiene. Lather, rinse, repeat. That messaging is costing you your hair. Here's the biology. Your scalp has sebaceous glands, oil-producing glands that exist for a very specific reason. The natural oil they produce, called sebum, creates a protective barrier over the scalp. It lubricates the hair shaft. It feeds the beneficial bacteria that keep your scalp microbiome balanced. And critically, it seals and protects the follicle opening, which is the exact site where inflammation and damage most commonly originate. When you wash your hair daily, especially with shampoos that contain sulfates, which are the harsh cleansing agents responsible for that aggressive foaming action, you strip every trace of sebum from your scalp. Every single day. Your glands then go into emergency overdrive to replace it. This cycle of strip and replace is deeply destabilizing to the scalp environment. The pH of your scalp fluctuates, the microbiome becomes dysregulated, and follicles that are already vulnerable after 50 are left exposed to oxidative stress, environmental pollutants, and inflammation with no protective barrier at all. A landmark study published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology found that sulfate-based shampoos used daily significantly disrupted the scalp lipid barrier in adults over 50, leading to measurable increases in scalp inflammation markers within just 4 weeks. The same markers directly linked to accelerated follicular miniaturization. I remember Patricia, a 68-year-old retired school teacher from Atlanta. She came to my office with her hair in a thin ponytail that broke my heart, because I could tell from the photos she showed me that just 5 years earlier, her hair had been full, vibrant, something she was clearly proud of. She had been washing her hair every single morning for 40 years, every morning without exception, because she said it made her feel fresh and put together. She was using a popular daily use shampoo with sodium lauryl sulfate listed as the second ingredient. I asked her to do one thing, just one. Reduce her washing to 3 times a week. Switch to a sulfate-free, pH-balanced shampoo. Nothing else. No supplements, no special treatments. 8 weeks later, she came back. She had taken a photo the morning of her appointment and held her phone up next to the original photo she'd shown me. The difference was visible, not dramatic, not a miracle, but unmistakable. Less shedding in the shower, less breakage, and something she described as volume she hadn't felt in years. She told me, "Doctor, I thought washing less would make my hair greasy and thin. It did the opposite. I feel like I'm finally working with my hair instead of against it." This wasn't a miracle. This was her scalp finally being allowed to do what it was always designed to do. And you can experience exactly the same thing. The practical guidance here is this. If you're washing daily, begin stepping down. Go to every other day for 2 weeks, then 3 times per week. Switch immediately to a sulfate-free shampoo. Look for ingredients like aloe vera, biotin complex, or ketoconazole if you have any scalp inflammation or flaking. And when you do wash, use lukewarm water, never hot. Hot water opens the follicle and strips its surrounding oils in the same way sulfates do. Combined, hot water and sulfate shampoo are one of the most destructive pairings your scalp encounters. If you're finding this valuable so far, I want to make a simple request. Before we get to the most important habit, the number one hair-killing mistake that most people over 50 are making daily, please subscribe to this channel right now. My mission is to bring you honest, practical health information designed specifically for adults over 60. And share this video with someone you care about, someone who's been quietly struggling with their hair and doesn't know why. A simple click from you could change something real for them. Now, let's talk about the one that matters most. Habit number 1. And I want you to listen to this carefully, because this is the one you're going to argue with me about. I know, because every patient does, at first. Habit number 1. Chronic nutritional deficiency masked as normal aging. You're not eating enough of the specific nutrients your hair follicles require to survive after 50. And because the changes happen slowly, because no single meal feels connected to the hair in your brush, you've accepted it as simply getting older. But it is not simply getting older. It is a specific, correctable, measurable deficiency. And it is, without question, the number one accelerant of age-related hair loss that I see in my clinic. Here is the mechanism, and I want you to understand this clearly. Hair follicles are among the most metabolically active structures in the human body. They require a continuous, abundant supply of specific micronutrients to complete each growth cycle. After 50, 3 things happen simultaneously that create a perfect storm for follicular starvation. First, your digestive system becomes less efficient at absorbing key nutrients, even if you're eating them. Second, your body's demand for certain repair nutrients increases as cellular turnover slows. And third, chronic low-level inflammation, which becomes more common with age, actively consumes the same antioxidants and micronutrients that your follicles depend on. The result is a follicle that is underfed, under-resourced, and gradually producing thinner, shorter, weaker hair until it stops producing hair at all. The 4 nutrients most consistently deficient in adults over 50 with accelerating hair loss are iron, specifically ferritin levels, vitamin D3, biotin, and zinc. Let me be specific because generalizations are useless here. Ferritin is the stored form of iron. It is the fuel tank for your hair follicles. A study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology found that women with hair loss had significantly lower ferritin levels than those without, and that restoring ferritin to optimal levels, not just normal but optimal, was associated with meaningful improvements in hair density over 6 months. The critical point here is that standard blood work often shows iron as normal, while ferritin remains critically low. You can be iron sufficient and ferritin deficient at the same time. Ask your doctor specifically for a ferritin level test, not just a standard iron panel. Vitamin D3 is perhaps the most underappreciated nutrient in follicular health. Vitamin D receptors are found directly on hair follicle cells. When those receptors are not activated, the follicle growth cycle shortens. Hair spends less time in the active growth phase and more time in the resting or shedding phase. A 2021 study published in Nutrients found that adults over 55 with significant hair thinning were 3 times more likely to have vitamin D deficiency than their peers with normal hair density. 3 times. And according to data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, more than 70% of adults over 60 in the United States have suboptimal vitamin D levels. Biotin. You've heard of this one. But here's what most people don't know. The standard daily intake recommendation for biotin has not changed significantly in decades, and it was not set based on the needs of adults over 50. When biotin deficiency exists, even mild deficiency, keratin infrastructure in the hair shaft breaks down. Hair becomes brittle, prone to snapping before it reaches any significant length. A study in the Journal of Clinical and Aesthetic Dermatology found that 38% of women presenting with hair thinning complaints had below optimal biotin levels. Most were eating what they believed was a balanced diet. Zinc completes the picture. Zinc is essential for the enzyme systems that regulate hair follicle cycling. Without adequate zinc, the signal that tells a dormant follicle to re-enter its growth phase simply doesn't fire. Research published in Annals of Dermatology found that zinc supplementation in zinc-deficient adults with hair loss led to significant improvements in hair regrowth, with results becoming measurable within 12 weeks. Now, I said this is a habit, and you might be wondering, how is a deficiency a habit? Here's how. The habit is the pattern of eating that creates and maintains the deficiency. Specifically, 3 dietary patterns I see constantly in adults over 50 that systematically starve the follicle. The first is the low-fat habit. Healthy fats, particularly omega-3 fatty acids, are essential for scalp circulation and follicular membrane integrity. Adults who have been told for decades to reduce fat intake often have chronically low omega-3 levels. The follicles sit in an environment with poor circulation and compromised cell membranes. Not enough blood flow means not enough nutrient delivery, no matter what else you do. The second is the high processed food habit. Ultra-processed foods are high in refined carbohydrates and seed oils that promote systemic inflammation. That same inflammation I mentioned earlier that consumes your follicle's nutrient supply before it can be used. Every processed snack is a small act of follicular sabotage. The third is inadequate protein intake. Hair is protein. It's almost entirely keratin, which is a structural protein. After 60, your body's ability to synthesize protein from dietary intake declines by up to 25%. If you're not deliberately increasing your protein intake to compensate, your body will down-prioritize hair production in favor of more critical metabolic functions. Your heart muscle needs protein. Your immune system needs protein. Your hair, in the hierarchy of biological priorities, comes last. If supply is limited, your hair goes unfed first. I remember James, a 74-year-old retired accountant from Minneapolis. He came to my office frustrated and skeptical. He told me flatly, "Dr. Turner, I eat well. I've always eaten well. I don't see how my diet has anything to do with this." He gestured at the top of his head where the thinning was most visible. He had been eating a low-fat diet for over 20 years, following the conventional health guidance of his era. Lean proteins, minimal fat, very little red meat, almost no eggs. I ran a full nutritional panel. His ferritin was critically low. His vitamin D3 was at the very bottom of the normal range. His zinc was deficient. And his daily protein intake, when we went through his food diary, was barely 60 grams per day, roughly half of what an active man his age requires. I gave him a specific protocol. I didn't ask him to overhaul his entire life. I asked him to add 2 eggs and a palm-sized portion of fatty fish to his weekly routine, to add a handful of pumpkin seeds to his daily snack, and to start taking a high-quality D3 supplement with K2 and a zinc bisglycinate supplement each morning with food. 12 weeks later, he sent me a message. He wasn't the type to be overly expressive, so when he wrote, "I have to admit you were right. My wife noticed before I did. There's something happening up there." That was his version of a dramatic transformation. 3 months after that, at his follow-up visit, his ferritin had normalized. His vitamin D was optimal. His zinc was within range. And the thinning at the crown of his head, while not reversed entirely, was measurably, visibly less advanced than when I had first seen him. He told me, "Doctor, I spent 20 years thinking I was eating healthy. Turns out I was eating for my heart and starving my hair." This wasn't a miracle. This was his body finally getting what it needed, and you can experience exactly the same thing. Here's my practical guidance for habit number 1. First, get tested. Ask your doctor specifically for ferritin, vitamin D25, OH, zinc, and a full thyroid panel, because thyroid dysfunction is another common and frequently missed driver of hair loss after 50 that nutritional deficiency often accompanies. Do not accept your labs look fine without seeing the actual numbers. Optimal ferritin for hair growth is generally above 70 nanograms per milliliter. Many labs flag deficiency only below 12. That gap between 12 and 70 is where millions of people are losing their hair and being told their results are normal. Second, increase your dietary protein deliberately. Target at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day if you are over 60. For a 70-kilogram person, that's approximately 84 grams daily. If that feels like a lot, start adding eggs, Greek yogurt, legumes, and fatty fish systematically. Third, add the right fats back into your diet. Avocado, olive oil, walnuts, and fatty fish like salmon or sardines provide the omega-3s and fat-soluble vitamins your scalp requires for healthy follicular environment. Fourth, reduce ultra-processed food consumption. Not eliminate, reduce. Start with 1 swap per day. Replace a processed snack with a small handful of mixed nuts, pumpkin seeds, and walnuts. You will be directly feeding your follicles with zinc, biotin, and healthy fats in one simple habit. If you believe nutrition is genuinely affecting your hair, type yes in the comments right now. If you're still skeptical, type 0. Your response helps other viewers over 50 know they're not alone in this. Now let me give you the complete action plan, the exact steps to begin reversing these 3 habits starting today. Day 1. Stop towel rubbing your hair entirely. Purchase a microfiber hair towel or use an old soft cotton t-shirt. Pat only. Begin air drying before any heat application. Use your hair dryer on the lowest setting, held at distance. Day 1 also. Examine the shampoo currently in your shower. Check the ingredient list for sodium lauryl sulfate or sodium lauryl sulfate. If either is present, this is your next purchase to change. Order a sulfate-free, pH-balanced alternative and begin using it on your next wash day, within the first week. Schedule a blood draw with your doctor and specifically request ferritin, vitamin D25OH level, a zinc level, and thyroid function including TSH and free T4. Bring a written list if needed. Do not let the appointment pass without these specific tests. Within the first week also. Add 2 eggs to your weekly meals. Eggs contain biotin, zinc, protein, and healthy fat in one inexpensive package. If you're not eating eggs, this is your single easiest follicle feeding upgrade. Week 2. Begin reducing wash frequency. If you're currently washing daily, move to every other day. Within 4 weeks, aim for 3 times per week. Your scalp will adjust. The temporary oiliness you might experience in the first 2 weeks is the recalibration of overactive sebaceous glands that were conditioned to operate in crisis mode. It normalizes. Week 2 also. Add a daily D3 supplement if your blood work confirms deficiency, which research suggests it will for the majority of adults over 60. Look for D3 combined with K2 for optimal absorption and utilization. Take it with your largest meal of the day for best bioavailability. Week 3. Add pumpkin seeds to your daily routine. 1 small handful, approximately 28 grams, delivers a meaningful dose of zinc, magnesium, and plant-based omega-3s. Add them to yogurt, salads, or eat them alone. This is not a dramatic change. It is a precise, targeted one. Month 1 and beyond. Track your shower drain and your pillow. Not obsessively, but honestly. Notice whether shedding is reducing. Notice whether new growth appears at the hairline or temples. These are the measurable signals that your follicles are coming back online. Do not make these critical errors. First, do not supplement randomly without testing. Taking high-dose iron without confirmed deficiency can be harmful. Test first, supplement based on results. Second, do not expect overnight results. Hair follicle recovery operates on a biological clock measured in weeks and months, not days. The science is clear that meaningful changes become visible at 6 to 12 weeks with consistent changes. Impatience is the most common reason people abandon protocols that are actually working. Third, do not revert to daily washing during the transition because of initial oiliness. That is the exact moment when your scalp is beginning to rebalance. Pushing through it is how you get to the other side. Now, I want to hear from you. Of these 3 habits, which one do you think you've been making the longest without realizing it? The towel rubbing, the daily sulfate washing, or the nutritional gaps? Share your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Your experience might be exactly what another viewer over 60 needs to hear today. Before I close, I want to come back to something important. Something I tell every patient who sits across from me feeling discouraged about their hair. You are not broken. Your information has been broken. You have been told to wash more, told to cut fat, told that this is simply aging. And that narrative has been costing you your hair in slow motion. The follicles that are still alive but dormant, they are waiting. They have not given up. The question is whether you will give them what they need before the window closes. The science is unambiguous. Remove the inflammatory stressors. Restore the nutritional environment. Protect the follicle from mechanical trauma. And the body, your body, begins to move in the direction of repair. Not because of an expensive treatment or a surgical procedure, because that is what biology does when you stop fighting against it. Here is my challenge to you. Commit to these 3 changes, just these 3 for the next 30 days. Change how you dry your hair tonight. Examine your shampoo tomorrow morning. Get your blood work scheduled this week. 30 days. Track what you notice. Your hair will begin telling you a different story, and you deserve to hear it. So let's recap what we covered today. Habit number 3, mechanical trauma from vigorous towel drying, a habit that creates chronic follicular inflammation through a process most people never connect to hair loss. The fix is immediate, costs nothing, and takes effect within weeks. Habit number 2, daily washing with sulfate shampoos, a habit the hair care industry profits from while your scalp pays the price. Reducing frequency and switching products allows your scalp's natural protective barrier to rebuild. And habit number 1, the silent nutritional deficiency that hides in plain sight. masquerading as normal aging while ferritin, vitamin D3, biotin, and zinc quietly drop below the threshold your follicles need to survive. The fix requires a conversation with your doctor and a few deliberate changes to what you eat. Each of these changes is small. None of them require a prescription. None of them require an expensive salon treatment. All of them are in your hands. Starting today, if this video helped you see your hair loss differently, if it gave you something actionable that you didn't have before, please hit the like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the practical senior health content we publish every week. And share this with someone you care about. Think about the person in your life who has been quietly losing their hair and has stopped talking about it because they've accepted it. A simple share from you could restart a conversation that changes something real for them. Because here is what I want you to carry with you. Aging does not take away your body's ability to repair. It simply asks you to be more precise about what you give it. Your hair is not gone, it is waiting. Take care of yourself.